Block 1. Imagine a lone woman pedaling through the dark, her bicycle rattling over muddy French roads. Checkpoints loom ahead, lit by flickering lanterns, where Nazi soldiers demand papers with cold stares. In 72 grueling hours, she rides 500 kilometers, slipping past patrols with secrets tucked in her coat. Her name was Nancy Wake, the White Mouse, a ghost who haunted the Gestapo's dreams. Watching this, you'll uncover the clever tricks she used to outwit enemies. You'll see how one woman's courage sparked resistance, turning quiet defiance into a force that shifted World War II. Her story shows how small choices can ripple into history-changing victories. World War II gripped Europe from September 1, 1939, to May 8, 1945, tearing lives apart. Nazi Germany's invasion of Poland triggered the conflict, and by May 1940, their tanks stormed France. In just 6 weeks, Paris fell and occupation began. German soldiers patrolled cobblestone streets, their boots echoing in silent towns. Curfews trapped families indoors after dusk. Checkpoints sprouted like weeds, where papers were checked with flashlights and suspicion. Food rations shrank, leaving markets bare, while fear silenced whispers of hope. In this shadow, Nancy Wake stood out, a woman unafraid to act. Born on August 30, 1912, in Wellington, New Zealand, Nancy grew up in Sydney, Australia. As a teenager, she was restless, running away at 16 with dreams of seeing the world. She worked odd jobs from waitress to typist, saving pennies for adventure. By 1936, she landed in Europe, writing stories as a journalist in Paris and Vienna. She saw Hitler's rallies firsthand, the swastika flags snapping in the wind. The sight hardened her resolve to fight tyranny. In 1939, at 27, she settled in Marseille, married to Henry Fiacca, a charming French businessman. Their home overlooked the Mediterranean, filled with laughter and clinking wine glasses. But when war hit, Nancy's world changed. She couldn't watch refugees flee south, their suitcases stuffed with all they owned, and do nothing. In late 1940, Marseille buzzed with danger but also defiance. Secret networks formed, hiding Allied pilots shot down over France. These men, often British or American, parachuted into fields bruised and lost. If caught, they faced interrogation or prison camps. Escape lines like the Pat O'Leary network guided them to safety. Named after a Belgian doctor, this group used safe houses, attics, cellars, or barns to hide men before smuggling them to Spain. A simple map shows the challenge. Arrows trace routes from Paris to Marseille, then west to the Pyrenees Mountains. Each path crossed rivers, forests, and guarded roads, with German posts every few miles. Nancy joined this fight in November 1940, driven by grit and a hatred of injustice. Her first role was modest but bold. She carried messages through Marseille's crowded markets, her basket heavy with bread and hidden notes. Dressed in tailored coats, she looked like any wealthy wife, her smile bright as she chatted with shopkeepers. But her sharp eyes scanned for tails, Gestapo agents trailing her steps. She memorized every alley, every cafe corner, ready to vanish if followed. The problem in 1941 was stark. Germany's control was iron-tight. Checkpoints blocked roads and trains crawled with soldiers. Resistance groups struggled to connect. Radios were scarce, often just crackling static. Without weapons or money, fighters hid in hills, unable to strike. Britain's answer was the Special Operations Executive, or SOE, formed in July 1940 to spark chaos behind enemy lines. SOE trained agents to blend in farmers, nurses, or clerks while carrying out sabotage. They parachuted supplies under moonlit skies, rifles, explosives, and stacks of cash wrapped in canvas. Nancy's early work fed into the system. In 1940, she drove ambulances through Marseille's bombed streets, the air thick with dust and smoke. Sirens wailed as she carried wounded civilians to safety. Friends in the resistance noticed her nerve, pulling her into their world. She began guiding pilots to safe houses, her quick laugh easing their fears. By 1941, she was a lifeline, helping dozens reach Spain, each step a gamble with her life. Block 2 Nancy Wake's missions in 1941 were a delicate dance. Marseille's old port smelled of fish and salt, its narrow streets alive with vendors and spies. She walked with purpose, her heels clicking on uneven stones. Her outfits, silk scarves, bright lipstick, made her look harmless, just a woman shopping for olives or wine. But hidden in her purse or sewn into her coat were coded messages, addresses, times, or maps for pilot pickups. At checkpoints, she'd flash a grin and speak fluent French, her Australian twang long buried. "Search me if you like," she'd say with a playful wink, knowing secrets were tucked in her garter. Guards, charmed or distracted, waved her through. By late 1941, she'd guided over 100 airmen south, each trip dodging Gestapo eyes. The Gestapo wasn't blind. They tapped her phone, the clicks betraying their presence. Agents followed her through markets, their coats blending into crowds. They opened her mail, searching for clues, and nicknamed her the White Mouse for slipping away like mist. Her apartment in Marseille, once a haven, became a cage. Shadows lingered outside, watching her windows. Yet Nancy kept moving, her mind a map of backstreets and safe corners. She learned to spot tails, men lingering too long at newsstands, and lost them in alley mazes. In November 1942, the game changed. Allied forces landed in North Africa on November 8, a bold move that shook Germany. They flooded Vichy France, the supposedly free southern zone, with troops. Checkpoints doubled, and raids hit resistance networks like lightning. One chilly night in December 1942, Nancy led 5 pilots across a river near Aix-en-Provence. The water was icy, glinting under a half-moon. They waded slowly, boots sinking in mud, as German patrols passed just yards away. Fog rolled in, a lucky shield, hiding their shadows. Farmers along the route played their part, slipping bread or blankets through barn doors. They whispered warnings about troop movements, building a quiet web of trust. Nancy's charm won them over. She shared stories over coffee, her laugh easing their fears. These bonds turned strangers into allies, offering attics or haylofts for hiding. By early 1943, her name was whispered in resistance circles, a symbol of hope. Betrayal struck like a blade in February 1943. A captured network member, broken by pressure, named Nancy as a courier. On February 13, Gestapo agents stormed her Toulouse safe house, their fists pounding the door. They dragged her to a damp cell where interrogators barked questions for 4 days. Sleep was impossible under glaring lights. Her leader, Albert Guyris, spun a clever lie. Nancy was just his lover, caught in a messy affair. The story worked and they released her, but Marseille was now a trap. She fled north, aiming for Spain. In March 1943, she joined a group crossing the Pyrenees. The 200-mile trek was brutal. Snow stung her face and rocks tore her shoes. Hunger gnawed as they climbed jagged peaks. At a border post, a Spanish guard grabbed her arm, demanding bribes. Nancy's fist met his jaw, a quick jab that sent him stumbling. She ran, reaching Gibraltar by April. A ship carried her to England by June. Heartbreak followed. Her husband, Henry Fiacca, was arrested in 1943 for hiding Jewish families. She later learned he was executed, his silence protecting her secrets. Guilt burned like a coal, but it fueled her fire. In England, Nancy joined the SOE on July 1, 1943. Training camps in Scotland were a trial by fire, crawling through muddy fields, decoding Morse signals, and learning to throw knives. She mastered pistols, her shots hitting targets dead center. Judo drills saw her flip men twice her size, her energy boundless. Instructors called her a natural, her quick mind soaking up every lesson. By December, she earned the rank of captain in the First Aid Nursing Yeomanry, a cover for SOE agents. As D-Day neared in 1944, her moment arrived. On April 29, she boarded a plane for Auvergne, the night sky swallowing her parachute. She landed in a pine tree, ropes tangling her legs. Henry Tardivat, a Maquis fighter, cut her free with a laugh, offering champagne if they survived. This spark began a partnership that armed thousands. Dot Blick. As Nancy Wake trained with Britain's Special Operations Executive in 1943, she stepped into a world of hidden ingenuity. The SOE, formed in July 1940 to disrupt Nazi control, armed its agents with tools that looked ordinary but carried deadly potential. These secret devices turned spies like Nancy into ghosts, slipping through enemy lines to save lives and sabotage plans. Imagine a suitcase, worn and scuffed, hiding a radio transmitter inside. These suitcase radios, weighing only 5 pounds, were miracles of engineering. Agents carried them through bustling markets or quiet villages, unnoticed by German patrols. With a flick of a switch, they sent coded Morse signals across the Atlantic to London. Each tap relayed drop zones for weapons or warnings of Gestapo raids. For Nancy, these radios became lifelines in Auvergne in 1944. When storms cut her team's signals, a hidden radio in a barn let her reconnect with London, ensuring crates of rifles landed by dawn. Without them, resistance groups like the Maquis would have been stranded, their plans unraveling like loose threads. Another marvel was maps printed on silk, a fabric chosen for its stealth. Silk didn't crinkle under pressure, tear in wind, or dissolve in rain. These maps, small enough to fold into a matchbox, were sewn into coat linings or tucked inside hollowed pencils. Some hid in cigarette packs, passed off as trash if searched. During Nancy's 1943 Pyrenees escape, a silk map saved her group. Snow blurred the mountain paths, and German border guards patrolled nearby. She pulled the map from a button, its faint lines guiding them through icy ravines to Spain. One wrong turn could have meant capture or death. These maps weren't just paper. They were freedom, letting agents like Nancy navigate Nazi-occupied France with confidence. By 1944, she used them to mark drop zones in Auvergne's forests, ensuring Allied planes hit their targets under moonlit skies. Then there were escape tools, crafted to defy capture. Tiny saws and knives, called escape blades, hid in everyday objects. A pencil might conceal a razor-sharp wire, perfect for cutting ropes. A comb could hold a blade to slice through cell bars. SOE perfected these from 1940, drawing on MI9, Britain's escape and evasion unit. Nancy carried one such blade in her hair during her Pyrenees trek in March 1943. At a Spanish checkpoint, a guard demanded a bribe. She slipped the blade free, ready to cut ties if trapped, but a quick punch sent him reeling instead. These tools gave agents a fighting chance, turning moments of panic into escapes. In training, Nancy practiced with them, learning to saw through cords in seconds. Later in Auvergne, she taught Maquis fighters to use similar gadgets, freeing captured comrades from village jails. Microfilms were another secret weapon. These tiny photo strips, no bigger than a thumbnail, stored pages of data, factory blueprints, troop movements, or traitor lists. They fit inside straws, buttons, or even lipstick tubes. Agents like Nancy swallowed them in emergencies, knowing they'd pass harmlessly. In 1942, she carried microfilms through Marseille, hidden in a hairpin detailing German convoy routes. In London, analysts pored over them with microscopes, turning her deliveries into battle plans. By 1944, microfilms helped her pinpoint bridges for sabotage, weakening German supply lines. These films were the resistance's eyes, capturing secrets that shifted the war's momentum. SOE's gadgets broke the rules of war. The Geneva Convention frowned on such deceptive tools, labeling them unfair. But for Britain, they were a desperate edge against Germany's grip. From 1941, SOE workshops churned out thousands of these devices, each tested in secret bases. Codes, hidden in poems or book pages, paired with radios to secure messages. Exploding pens disguised as gifts could destroy a desk or an officer. Nancy never used the latter, but she knew their power. In Auvergne, her radio work triggered precise drops. Over 500 crates landed in June 1944 alone, arming 7,000 Maquis. These tools weren't just clever, they were game changers. They let Nancy slip past checkpoints, organize fighters, and strike silently. The impact went beyond her missions. Suitcase radios linked scattered resistance groups, creating a web across France. By 1943, over 1,000 sets operated in Europe, guiding Allied bombs to factories. Silk maps reached thousands of agents and downed pilots, with Mi-9 distributing 20,000 by 1944. Escape blades freed hundreds from captivity. Records show 600 Allied airmen escaped using such tools. Microfilms fed London's intelligence, crippling German logistics before D-Day. For Nancy, these gadgets were her edge. They turned her bike ride to Châteauroux into a lifeline, her maps into victories. War wasn't just fought with tanks. These quiet innovations, forbidden yet vital, helped the White Mouse outsmart an empire. Block 3 Nancy landed in Auvergne's rugged hills in May 1944, her boots sinking into soft earth. The region was a patchwork of forests and farms, perfect for hiding but deadly for mistakes. Her team, codenamed Freelance, joined Maquis leader Jean Gaspard, a grizzled veteran with a temper. He scoffed at a woman leading, his voice sharp with doubt. Nancy didn't argue, she acted. She mapped drop zones with chalk on barn walls, marking fields for Allied planes. At night, she lit bonfires on hilltops. Their orange glow guiding parachutes. Crates of Sten guns, grenades, and cash floated down, the plane's drone fatting into silence. Her precision won Gaspard's respect, though he grumbled at first. On June 2, 1944, Germans attacked their Mont-Mouchet base, a forest camp alive with 3,000 fighters. Bullets ripped through canvas tents and shouts filled the air. Dozens fell in the chaos, their bodies left in the dirt. Nancy's group fled west, trekking 90 miles in 3 days. They hid in ditches, the summer heat thick with dust. German trucks rumbled past, their headlights slicing the dark. Nancy whispered orders, keeping her men calm. The crisis peaked on June 20, when a storm wrecked their radios. Static drowned out London's signals, leaving 7,000 Maquis stranded. Without supplies, they'd crumble. Nancy proposed a desperate plan, a 310-mile bike ride to Châteauroux to reach a backup radio. The ride was a marathon of will. Starting June 21, she pedaled through villages, her legs aching under a burning sun. Checkpoints dotted the roads, soldiers squinting at her papers. Her bike's chain snapped twice. She stole replacements from sheds, her hands greasy. At one stop, a German officer asked her business. "Eggs for my aunt," she said with a laugh, her basket empty but convincing. Farmers slipped her water, their eyes kind but wary. On June 23, after 72 hours, she reached the radio operator. Her coded message flew to London, triggering supply drops by dawn. Crates landed in fields, packing rifles and dynamite. The Maquis surged back, their morale blazing. By July, Nancy led boulder strikes. She taught farmers to ambush convoys, hiding in hedgerows as trucks passed. One night near Le Pai, she wired explosives to a bridge, the blast lighting the sky. Sparks rained as steel groaned and fell. In August, her team hit a Gestapo office in Montluçon. They crept through moonlit alleys, tossing grenades through windows. Papers scattered like confetti as they fled. Allied troops landed in southern France on August 15, 1944, pushing Germans north. Nancy's Maquis struck retreating columns, capturing fuel trucks and cutting wires. By September 2, she flew back to England, her mission done. Europe's war ended on May 8, 1945. Her work delayed German troops by weeks, easing Allied victories. The Gestapo's errors helped her thrive. First, they underestimated women, searching men while Nancy carried secrets in plain sight. This let networks grow for years. Second, their slow response to sabotage crippled them. Blown bridges took days to fix, stalling troops. Third, their harsh interrogations backfired. Some talked, but survivors like Nancy returned fiercer, fueled by defiance. Her escapes exposed their flaws, letting resistance spread like wildfire. Block 4 Nancy Wake's genius was her adaptability. At checkpoints, her warm smile and quick chatter disarmed guards. She'd lean close, joking in French while hiding notes in her skirt. Hundreds of patrols fell for it, their searches sloppy. Her second strength was building trust fast. In villages, she sat with farmers, sharing bread and stories of pre-war France. Her laugh broke their fears, turning strangers into allies. Barns became safe houses, horses appeared for escapes. These bonds were her shield, hiding her in plain sight. Her third key move was acting in chaos. When radios failed in June 1944, 7,000 Maquis faced ruin. Nancy didn't wait. She rode 500 kilometers, her body screaming but her mind clear. That ride saved her men, proving action beats doubt. Her impact reshaped the war. In 1944, her supply drops armed Maquis groups that cut German rail lines by 20%. Trains stalled, and troops arrived late to Normandy, easing D-Day's path on June 6. Her courage inspired other women. In 1943, SOE had 40 female agents. By 1945, over 100 served running radios or planting bombs. Their work, silent signals, hidden explosives, was vital for Allied success. Nancy's methods became a blueprint for spies. Her bonfire signals and fake identities shaped Cold War tactics, teaching agents to blend in and move fast. Books and manuals cited her name a quiet legend in intelligence circles. After the war, her story lifted unsung heroes. Awards poured in. Britain's George Medal in 1945, France's Croix de Guerre with 3 mentions, and America's Medal of Freedom. These honors spotlighted resistance fighters, ensuring their bravery wasn't forgotten. Nancy's life didn't stop in 1945. She returned to Australia, ran for Parliament, and wrote The White Mouse in 1985, her memoir a vivid retelling of her war. She lived with fire until her death in 2011 at 98, never boasting but always proud. Her story teaches that courage isn't loud. It's a quiet choice, made daily, to act when others freeze. Nancy's legacy stretched beyond France. In occupied towns, she was a spark lighting fires of defiance. Farmers who hid her, pilots she saved, and fighters she armed carried her spirit. They disrupted Germany's machine, one blown bridge or stolen truck at a time. Her work showed that resistance isn't just guns, it's trust, wit, and nerve. In classrooms today, her name inspires, a reminder that one person can tip history's scales. From Marseille's alleys to Auvergne's hills, Nancy Wake proved that a single voice, armed with cunning, can echo across generations. Epilogue. Nancy Wake's story didn't fade when the guns of World War II fell silent on May 8, 1945. The White Mouse returned to Australia, her heart still ablaze with the fire that outwitted the Gestapo. She carried memories of moonlit parachute drops, breathless bike rides through enemy lines, and quiet moments sharing bread with farmers who risked all for her. At 98, when she passed in London on August 7, 2011, her name lived on in whispered tales of resistance. Nancy proved a timeless truth. Courage isn't born in grand gestures, but in small, stubborn choices made under crushing pressure. Her 500-kilometer ride to save 7,000 Maquis fighters, her coded signals sparking supply drops, her quick smiles fooling checkpoints. These acts toppled Nazi plans, saving countless lives. One woman, armed with wit and grit, shifted the war's tide, proving a single spark can ignite a revolution. But Nancy wasn't alone in this shadow war. Across occupied Europe, ordinary people, bakers, teachers, shopkeepers became heroes. In France, women like André Borel parachuted for the SOE, planting bombs under train tracks. In Poland, couriers like Elżbieta Załęcka smuggled secrets through snowy forests, dodging SS patrols. These names, often buried in history's pages, carried the same fire as Nancy. Their coded messages, hidden in coat linings or bicycle frames, linked resistance networks from Paris to Warsaw. By 1944, over 10,000 Maquis fighters disrupted German supply lines, delaying troops to Normandy's beaches. Their work, like Nancy's, turned whispers into roars, proving that bravery thrives in the quietest hearts. Yet how many of these stories remain untold? Who else risked everything to light the path to victory? Nancy's legacy stretched far beyond France's hills. Her memoir, The White Mouse, published in 1985, captured her daring for generations. Schools in Australia teach her name, inspiring children to face fear with nerve. Her awards, Britain's George Medal, France's Croix de Guerre with 3 mentions, America's Medal of Freedom, shone a light on resistance fighters worldwide. In intelligence circles, her tactics shaped Cold War espionage. The silk maps she used, the suitcase radios she mastered, became blueprints for spies in Berlin and Moscow. Even today, her story reminds us that one person's resolve can ripple across time, turning impossible odds into triumphs. Imagine the others waiting to be discovered: secret agents, quiet saboteurs, everyday people who defied empires with nothing but courage. What other hidden heroes shaped World War II? Who ran messages through burning cities or hid pilots in attic shadows? Our channel is dedicated to unearthing these tales, from espionage in occupied France to resistance in forgotten corners of Europe. Each story reveals how ordinary people turned small acts into seismic shifts. Subscribe now to join us on this journey through history's untold battles. Hit that button, share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep these stories alive. Your support fuels our mission to uncover the spies, fighters, and dreamers who changed the world, one clever step at a time.